Hello, I'm Denise Fazzaro,
And I'm Clark Farley.
and we're coming to you live from Westerly, Rhode Island, Randall Realtors office. We invite you to spend a little time as we share our insights and experiences, tips and tactics acquired over quite a few years. Our goal, help you become a knowledgeable buyer and a skilled seller.
Damn, you still, I mean, I like that you don't see what I see, but the words were a struggle, but she does them so well. I'm still Clark Farley. And I get to do the slight backstory about why we're here or how we got to be here. Denise and I, as she said, are in the Westerly office. And back in the day, not that many years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, we did buyer seminars. And in those days, that consisted of a 60-minute presentation, an ad in the newspaper, and people would show up at the office and we would do a presentation. And we're pretty good at it. The thing that brings us to today is that, we would survey the people, as they left or follow up with them and say, hey, what'd you like about it? And more often than not, they would be saying things like, I got a lot out of the breaks when we talked to you guys directly, as opposed to the presentations. So that kind of got our minds working recently when we decided, well, let's go ahead and do another similar seminar thing. And so we sat down and we said, okay, let's get in the 21st century. So first thing is we'll do it online. Sure, we can do that. We can do it as video. I was kind of drawing back at that point, and then finally one of us said, and let's do it live on Facebook.
That was me.
And my head didn't quite explode, but the fact is, here we are live on Facebook. So what we did was we took those 60 to 90 minutes and says, this is the 21st century. Let's go to 20 minutes because everybody is smarter.
Everybody wants things done a lot quicker these days.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So what we'll be doing here in the coming weeks, it'll always be, we're planning on 5:30 on Wednesdays all the time. Help make it plannable. But this topic, of course, will always be real estate, but week to week, one week we may focus on buyers' concerns, buyers' challenges. Another week we may do sellers. And then some
weeks we're going to combine it and make it about buyers and sellers.
And that should be fun.
Yeah.
But
a little bit of both tonight, I think.
Yeah.
So this week we are covering, is this the house for you? But before we get into that, please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Some of the accounts we've just set up, so they're not really active yet, but they're there. So we'd love you to follow us because we're going to start putting some information on those. If you have any questions while we're doing the briefing, please don't hesitate to put a message in the comment box. And before it's over, I am going to put in there our email address and phone numbers.
Okay.
So you can contact us with questions for other briefings, or if you have some suggestions on things you'd like to know about, we'd be glad to address them some other week. Because we do come here once a week, right now Wednesdays at 5:30.
Yeah.
Right?
I just realized how good the choice of words was, briefings.
Yes.
Because it's brief.
And it is briefings.
But it's that kind of briefing. We'll
It
now
is.
brief you on the upcoming projects. So.
Right. But we would like to make it a little interactive. So if you do have some questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the chat box.
In fact, when we started this, I used to say things to the effect that tonight's topic will be what Denise will announce. Is this the house for you? But if you have questions, the idea of this is to present information in a context. So you say, hey, a friend of mine was buying a house and the seller said he couldn't do that. Those are the kind of questions that could steer a whole 20-minute briefing.
Absolutely. So we're going to cover today what sellers want to know about preparing their house for buyers. But mostly we're going to be talking about what buyers are going to be looking for, or how to know what you're looking for as a buyer. Sorry about that. We did mention in another briefing that we had a few weeks ago about curb appeal. When a buyer walks into the house, for the very first impression is very important. That can often make and break whether or not they're even going to look any further into the house. We
Sure.
have had buyers walk in and say, no, this house is not for me.
I've seen them drive up, drive away.
Well, that happened to me one time. It
Really?
did. Yes, absolutely did. Um, so, if you're a buyer, what do you need? What do you need? Why are you buying this house? What do you need? How many bedrooms? How many baths? Do you want electric heat? Do you want gas heat?
That's a, that's a, that's a good point. And the need that you have, yes, you need, especially the idea of the kind of heat, that actually is need. But I like the idea of need, especially with the first house. I need to live in a house with a fireplace. In other words, it's not a necessity other than to that buyer.
Well, I think that's true in some cases, but I think you got to make a list.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's always good to make the list in pencil because your needs and wants are going to change, especially if there's two of you, right? I stole his line. That's why he's laughing.
And she delivered it very better than I would have. So thank you, Denise. That was very good.
But yes, make a list of the things that you think you need.
Mm.
And then when we start looking at houses, especially if you're not looking at a brand new house, and even with brand new houses, if you're not building it, you're probably not going to get every single thing you want.
Mm.
There's compromise either way, but you'll know if it's the house.
I would submit that it's not just a compromise that happens with buyers, it's a exchange of values. I mean, we were talking earlier about size of lot is a big thing, especially down here in southern Rhode Island, that people will perceive, especially in Hopkinton, Richmond, Charleston. I'd like privacy. I have to have a house with 5 acres. They're talking privacy, and 5 acres sounds like it'd be private. I could show you houses as you can on North Road where you've got 2 acres and you can take the mail from the mailman as he drives up. But the idea of you start out with an idea, privacy, but when you get out there.
Well, it's the same thing with size of the house.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially like a lot of people want to downsize, or you've had add more people to your family and you want to upsize. And then you get into a house. So many people who want to downsize,
Yeah.
they get into a house and oh, my dining room table's not going to fit in this house, or this isn't going to happen. And so they have to modify what downsize means to them. And the only way you're going to do that is to go out and look.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the only way you're going to do that. So knowing what you need and then looking at things that you want are helpful. And a lot of times you're going to change your mind.
Yeah. And expect a big list, or depending on the market, but you start out casting a wide net because as agents, I'm looking to learn the subjective values. We just mentioned size. How big is big? I mean, so everybody's different about that.
Mm-hmm.
How close is too close to those neighbors? So when I send people out with especially the first list, which is almost always should be the longest list that a buyer receives, because after that we're focusing. So this is
It depends
closer.
too on the market. However, this current market, that's excuse me. This current market, that's not necessarily what would happen.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, and we're trying to be general here, you go and drive by a few places, see what the neighborhood's like, see if you like it, and then we can set up appointments for you to go look at them.
Yeah.
In the current market, we're doing, and actually because of COVID too, we're doing a lot of online drive-bys. Luckily, our MLS system and some of the other systems have maps on them, so you can actually see what the neighborhood
Google
looks
Street
like.
View.
You can Google Street View and see what the neighborhood looks like, which is always a good idea. But there's nothing like seeing it in person. There's nothing like being there when you would get out of work to see what that house looks like at that point.
That's I mentioned Phyllis, my wife. She provided for me the idea of the drive home test of a house. So you've got a house that you are liking and it's holding on to that short list. Her suggestion way back years ago was, all right, tomorrow night, instead of going directly home from work, go to the new house. Don't knock on the door.
Yeah.
But drive up to it, seriously, and see how that feels. Because for what I've been experiencing, it's a accumulation of positives.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to anything like, oh, I don't like that. And you had mentioned something about different times of day.
Right, right. Different times of day. If you're near a ballpark, maybe you want to go when there's a game going on to see how noisy it might be, or, maybe you'd like to go walk across the street and watch a game. Or if you're near a school or something like that, you want to go at different times of the day and check it out when you have the time to do that. In this market, not necessarily. But that's when it's good to have someone who's helping you, a realtor who helps you know the neighborhoods and can tell you about things that might happen. We just got a question. Could you clarify why it's important for a buyer to have their own agent instead of calling the agent listed on the for sale sign? Yes, thank you for the question. We did cover that question last week, I believe, but it's a good point because the agent on the for sale sign represents the seller. And so what the person's asking, I'm assuming, is if you're looking to buy a house, you would want to call your agent who's representing you as a buyer. So if you call the agent on the sign, they are there to sell the house at the best price they can get for the seller.
Well, thanks, Manny. We're not supposed to mention names?
You can mention my husband's name.
Okay, well, thanks.
Hi, hon.
But that whole, and one of these episodes we may do a list of myths about real estate, and one of those would be that we hear it, you go to the listing agent, he'll get us the best deal. Probably not.
No,
It doesn't work that way.
So while we're touring the homes, we've
getting inside the house.
We've got to get inside the house. So
Oh, can I interrupt?
yes.
One of the things that, especially nowadays, as you say, with this tremendous market, is if you're out there as buyers and you see something on one of the other websites or on Randall's site or anywhere, call your agent, because what happens, and I've got that right now, I've got an accepted offer on a property, except it's showing as active because I don't have the docs executed. I don't have it all done. Mm-hmm. So before you get your hopes up too much, call your agent, say, hey, check out the house at 2 Pondview and see the status and get us in if you can. So that's a good way to avoid that.
And the other thing, some of the other sites that people use to find real estate don't have the same designations that we have. So sometimes if something is pending, it may be considered still active on other sites because we're waiting to get through inspections or waiting for a mortgage contingency. So often people call me up and ask about a house and it's been pending for weeks.
Yeah, Zorro doesn't keep up the information all that well.
Yes, that is kind of sort of the name he's talking about. So anyway, you're going to tour a house. Your agent set up some tours for you to go see the houses that you said you're interested in seeing. You've already looked at the pictures online, you checked out the map, maybe you drove by the house, and now it's the day to go tour the houses. So now the first thing you want to do for me is when you drive up, how does it feel? How does it feel when you walk in the door? How does it feel when you're walking around? I can't tell you how many people I've had say to me, this is my house. It just feels right. It just feels
And
right.
I'll be totally sitting in the couch when they say that. I'll walk right in and sit on the couch. And I'm watching, and if they're in that comfort thing,
it really is. It's incredible. I mean, not every house will be that way, and if you're a couple, you may not both have that same feeling, but it happens that sometimes it's just a feeling, and you may give up a fireplace if a house makes you feel that way.
Oh, Manny, there's another reason for having your own agent. Most people are decent, nice people and don't like opening things in a stranger's house. An agent isn't limited that way. I will open everything I can find, and I wrote down something about a secret rule that you can open anything except for furniture and, a fixture, closet doors, bathroom doors, kitchens especially. I mean, that's the one that people will hold back and say, I don't want to look. No, we'll do it if you don't.
Yes, absolutely. And I've told people, you've got to open up under the bathroom sink. You've got to see if there's been leaks under there. You've got to open up under the kitchen sink. And if I encourage my clients to open them themselves.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's when you find the pull-out drawers in the kitchen, or that lazy Susan that's just perfect, or the next to the stove there's a drawer to put spices in, or where's the trash can? Oh, here it is. Pull it out. There it is. And
Or the
closets,
ironing board.
ironing boards behind a wall.
Yeah.
Closets with a washer and dryer in them. If you don't open the door, you're never going to find that. And not every showing you go to, the listing agent will be there to point out things that they already know about the house. So that's what our job is, if we're acting as a buyer's agent, is to help you discover where the things are in the house that might be of interest to you.
And not that it happens all that often, but if a buyer were to think, no, I'll go directly to the seller, then you get to picture the idea that the seller will show you the house because they're trying to be a for sale by owner agent. Go into their master bedroom and say, hey, what's in the closet? And watch the reaction, because people tend to think, oh, cut it out. But that's why having your own agent, and most of the time sellers aren't there for it. But you're supposed to get a feel for it.
Most of the time. The other thing too is, as a seller, you really do need to make sure that people can open your closets. When you get the call that somebody's coming to see your house, please don't stuff everything in the closet, because when we open it and it falls down on top of us. Or my big thing is, make sure the closet works, the doors work, because I can't tell you how many times I've had to put them back up on the brackets.
Oh man, these are all being archived over to YouTube. I probably have said, stuff that closet, because if you're the seller, you want to make a first impression. So if you've got a kitchen with a bunch of stuff on the counters, I'm going to say, no, put it under there with the
but make sure it's not going to fall down.
Well,
when I open up the cupboard.
There is that.
I mean, neat is nice and clean is nice too.
This is clearly a bigger topic than we had. It's kind of fun. And you ask any agent, what's the fun of the business? Showing houses is right in the top 5.
It really is. It's really enjoyable to show clients houses. That's where we learn about them too. So those first couple of times we've taken someone to see a house, or if you're seeing 3 or 4 houses in a day, by the time you get to 3 and 4,
then you go home.
You start to know the person a little bit better and know what they really do like and don't like.
Oh, because I used to say back when there were a lot of listings, you see 7 houses, and then you're at home talking about the house with 3 fireplaces, 2 in-ground pools, and a helipad, and they get kind of smushed together.
Yeah, 7 houses is really too many to see in a day. It does get too confusing. So well, we're coming close to the end of our time.
We are.
So we really do need to finish up, and so
yeah, let's look for. We'll turn over the new year. We will be every Wednesday next week on.
Yes, next Wednesday we'll be here 5:30 on Facebook Live.
But before we go, you want to talk about, we want to thank everybody who's shown up and participated, and mostly for me helped to develop what we've developed so far. And we're talking about, who are we talking about?
Well, Emma, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Bob and Kim, that was really helpful when you listened to us and gave us some advice.
Yeah, Alex was out
friend
there.
Alex, my husband Manny, who not only has been watching and giving me some good advice, but is asked a question today, which we really appreciate. And the people at Service Master by Mason, they have been very helpful in sharing and liking, which we need you all to do. We want to keep doing this, so please share us, like us, follow us on YouTube. If you thought there was one little grain of something here that a friend of yours would need to know, have them watch this. It will be on Facebook, it will be on YouTube, and so,
and
keep following us.
You get extra status in whatever contest we come up with in the new year.
We are going to come up with a contest next year.
So the original group, which we've just named, will get, not cheating or anything, but you'll get an extra
point, an extra point.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for watching tonight.
Yeah.
And again, please don't hesitate to ask questions anytime you come visit us. And like us, share us, and
have a good new year.
Have a wonderful new year.
Like
Here's to 2021 being better than the last one.
Like that's going to be tough. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
So
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, my mouse fell on the floor.
This is.